Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rants alongside Tommy Krysan here on this day after Labor Day edition of Sports Shorts Daily. Tuesday morning here, the day after, a couple of days after LSU football. So, of course, that'll dominate the discussion today. But we'll touch on some other big topics. Florida State 0-2, which was a shocker. They were Nick Saban's pick to win the national championship. We'll get to that. And Tommy Krysan was Nostradamus yesterday. We'll tell you what that means. Packers and Eagles will open up the season in Brazil, and I'll tell you why that's kind of a silly thing for the NFL. There's a backstory to that game. LSU polls, we're waiting to see where they end up, but Tommy has his thoughts on where they'll land. Brian Kelly's been in the news not only locally but nationally after his reaction to LSU's loss to USC. We'll start first with the game. Tommy's doing it, of course, over at Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. Court Street, just across the Mississippi River Bridge in downtown Port Allen. I'm in an undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. September 11th. That's 10 days from now. Big announcement for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We'll have our 2025 class announced sometime in like I said, 10 days or 9 days. We're presented by LeBear's Casino. LeBear's Casino will really the place to be before and after LSU football home games. It's a great place to park, catch a shuttle, catch an Uber, catch the bus. Over at LeBear's, and of course, the after party always at Edge Lounge at LeBear's Casino this year for every single LSU football home game. All right, TK. First off, unbelievable trip over in Vegas. There were so many things going on. Vegas has exploded. If anybody hasn't been to Vegas in a while, I mean, let's say, hey, I went 10 years ago. There's a lot of things you're not going to recognize. Hey, I went 5 years ago. There's a lot of things you're not going to recognize. It's amazing how much it's changed, how much it continues to change. Throw in Formula One racing into the mix and the things that they did over there. The new casinos that are opening up, Resort World, which is where like LSU stayed, which is past the Wynn. Mountain Blue opened up in the last year. That casino, which is new, past the Wynn on the right. Just so much going on. I used to go a lot to Vegas, sort of between say 2001 and 2015, but I haven't been that much over the last decade, and it's just incredible all the changes and things that are happening there. But an unbelievable trip up until the last 5 minutes of the game. But special shout out. I traveled with Mr. Fun Travel, Jason Ramazan, BJ, and the guys over there at Mr. Fun Travel. Did an awesome trip. We had a bunch of the 1045 ESPN folks on the flight. Obviously Matt and T-Bob and Jacob and all the gang, Bo Wegman, all the gang. Bunch of Rougarou sponsors and Hall of Fame sponsors as well. So special thanks. Charles Harvey was there, Brandon Holly with Relief Windows, et cetera, et cetera. Awesome trip. They did a great job, and I tell you, everything was amazing. This is sort of like a broken record, Tommy. Every year, LSU goes on an awesome away road trip, whether it's Green Bay or Orlando last year. Great trip. Everything's awesome. Amazing time. But, oh, by the way, the game was a dud. And that's kind of how this was. LSU, I thought, was the better team, Tommy, in this game by just a smidgen, but they lost. Clearly, they were a better team to the last, 5-7 minutes of the game. But there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda. Jim Mora would have had a field day, the old Saints coach, with this LSU team because they are kicking themselves. And I think the reason that Brian Kelly was more irritated and upset about this loss than probably any other we've seen since he's been at LSU is because he knows they should have won this game, that they deserved to win this game and just did not get it done.
Well, let me ask you this question before we talk about the game. How was that stadium?
So Allegiant Stadium, who it looks amazing from the outside. The hockey puck, it almost looks like a hockey puck. It's big, dark black disc. It looked state-of-the-art UFO like. The stadium was nice. Stadium was pretty cool. I think depending on where you were, it was even better in some spots than others. It's small. They LSU played in the largest crowd ever in that stadium. It was a bigger crowd than the Super Bowl. It was a bigger crowd than any Raider game. So 63 and change was the largest, bigger than Garth Brooks in concert there. So it was the largest crowd ever for an event in the stadium. I felt like, some areas were a little tight, a little small, like it's, but I would say Jerry World is still the best one I've been to. And I'll be going again in a couple weeks when the Saints play at the Cowboys on the September 15th. I'll be going to that game. Jerry World is the better venue for me, largely because it's big and spacious, like you would think things in Texas would be. A lot of room where the concessions are, and a lot of room, where the concourses are. Allegiant wasn't like that. It was tighter. And maybe that makes sense because the stadium is located literally near the strip, right? I mean, it runs parallel to the strip on the other side of the interstate by Mandalay Bay and behind, say, New York, and all that. So it's close to the strip. I'm sure the land is super valuable. You don't have the foot. They would have built the stadium 20 minutes outside of town. They wanted to have it right there by the strip. So therefore, you can't have the biggest, widest, spacious stadium in the world. But it was very nice. I was thinking it might beat Jerry World. It does not.
All right. Well, maybe one day I'll get out there and check something out at that stadium. I do need to make a trip back to Vegas. It's been a long time since I've been there. I used to go frequently, but
whenever 2027 and beyond, because that's when the Oakland A's are supposed to open up in their new stadium in 2027, which all the designs and the drawings and everything that I'm seeing for Major League Baseball coming to Vegas in 2027 is going to be the most unbelievable baseball stadium of all time, including giant, LED. It's going to be an indoor stadium, but they're having enough glass around the sides to make it feel like it's outside, but yet it's going to be inside. But the main thing is that roof, which is going to look like almost like the Sydney Opera House. It's going to have, if you go to the Sydney Opera House, if you can't remember what that looks like, you go online where it looks like almost shells on top of each other. That's what this stadium's going to look like, a giant Sydney Opera House. But the inside is going to be LED to where, like, now batting Alex Bregman, and you look up, you're not going to look up at a scoreboard in one section. You're just going to look up to the roof, and the whole roof is going to be a giant LED screen and scoreboards. It's unlike anything you've ever seen before. That's supposed to open in 2027, right there by the airport, right there at the corner where MGM and New York, and all that is. It's looking forward to it. So that's when you should go, Tommy.
Okay, I'll wait and go then. I'll make that trip. Hey, now to the game. Let's get to that football game, right? Okay, my biggest takeaway, the offensive line. We heard all about it. We read all about it. Everybody talked about it. And if you take John Emery's 39-yard out of the stat book, they averaged 3 yards a carry. They just could not get anything going. Okay, now Emery's run was on a counter play, and Southern Cal's successful runs were on counter plays. LSU too many times just handed it off right in between the tackles, and that's 2,000 pounds of humanity, and it's tough to get going. And I mean, counterplay. I mean, these defenses fly now. I mean, they're well prepared. You got to get them going the wrong direction. And LSU refused to do that. They couldn't block like they needed to block. And I think that was my biggest takeaway is the line wasn't as good as Brian Kelly said it would be, and I thought it would be. 3 NFL guys, all that. That was the biggest takeaway that I had. I thought Nussmeier looked good. I thought there were a lot of good things. The defense looked good in spots, but looked like Swiss cheese in spots. I mean, especially late in the game. And I thought LSU called the dogs off. I think, Kelly said the sideline acted like they won the game. And I think that means him too, because they quit letting Nussmeier throw the ball. They wouldn't let him throw it down the field. I know you got to take what the defense will give you. Sometimes you got to throw it underneath. I get that. But you have to vertically extend that field. We all know that. And LSU just, I think they thought they had it, and they called off the dogs a little bit. And I don't think they trusted Nussmeier as much as they might trust him 4 or 5 weeks from now. Same thing with Jaden Daniels last year, or the first year he was in Baton Rouge. They didn't trust him all that much. Even Joe Burrow's first year. You got to let these guys play. And I thought LSU was the better team, but not Saturday night, Sunday night, because Southern Cal ended up walking off the field with a win. So it was tough. Now, keep in mind, everybody knows 3 straight losses of Brian Kelly, but he won 10 games last 2 years. I don't know if he can do that again. Time will tell. They're going to beat Nicholls this Saturday night. And they got a chance to win the next 3 or 4 games if they show some improvement. And they got to figure out this offensive line thing and figure out some holes in the defense, cut out the bad penalties, the discipline. 3 bad penalties. One, the targeting penalty. I've never been as harsh on targeting as some people because, you make the commitment to go hit the guy and his body level changes or his head level changes. It can happen sometimes. But, and I don't think it's like he launched into this vicious targeting thing. But, the penalty with the theatrics in the end zone and Major Burns taking his helmet off, he's a fifth-year guy. He's supposed to know better than that. You can't have that in any game. You can't have it Saturday night against Nicholls, much less in a game against a ranked opponent. Now, the polls will come out today, and LSU, I think, will not going to fall real far, maybe 18, 19, 20. They were 12, 13, depending on which poll you looked at. They're still going to be in there, but we'll just have to see. But it was a disappointing outcome, no question about that.
I don't like the targeting rule because it doesn't give you first off, it was targeting. It was helmet to helmet, letter of the law. We know that letter of law is all that matters. They don't take into consideration intent. They don't take into consideration, hey, it already started his movement this way and the guy moved that way or anything like that. The bottom line is if your head engages that other team's helmet, they're going to get you for targeting. And it's BS, but it is what it is. But it was a giant call. 10 penalties, 99 yards in the game. And, of course, of those 10 penalties, Tommy, felt like at least 7 of them were just huge, and they came at the wrong time, and they really affected drives, and it really affected momentum. And Brian Kelly talked about that a lot in the postgame. But I go back to the start of the game. I'm in the stands. I'm sitting 10 rows behind LSU's 10, 12 rows behind the bench, probably on the 35, 40-yard line. Good seats. And Kelly takes the football. Second year in a row he's done that, in the coin toss. They win the toss, but everyone who wins the toss, 95% of the people that win the toss, especially when you're playing a team that is on your level, right? It's not LSU Nicholls where it's name your score. It's a team that it's LSU USC was a coin flip game. They took the football, which was like, ooh, okay, all right, we're not deferring. Okay, which the book says to defer. Most people defer, but we're going to take the game ball. Okay. You have a really good opening drive. You go down and you're good play calling. You're establishing Lacey big time. Nussmeier's getting confidence. You got the tight end involved. You're running the ball effectively. And you get down inside the 10-yard line. Yeah, you have the big penalty that backs you up. But then you end up with a 4th and 3. And immediately when I saw it was 4th and 3 plus, it wasn't 4th and 3 almost 2. It was 4th and 3 almost 4. Immediately there, I thought, all right, take the points. Be satisfied. Be happy. And here's why you take the points. One, it's points. But it's also like you're rewarding your team. You went down there, hey, guys, let's get the ball. Let's go down the field. Let's get some points. You did. You went down. You ate up clock. Everyone's got confidence. You're feeling really good about yourself. We should have scored, but that dumb penalty, we put ourselves in a bad spot, but we got some points. We're up 3-0. Like there's nothing bad about that. And instead, you go for it on 4th and 3, which at that point, I'm guessing 4th and 3 in that situation, Tommy, is 25% make, 30% make, maybe at the most. percentage-wise. Instead, you get nothing, and then the momentum shifts to their fans, to their team. And yeah, at least you put your defense in a good spot, but your defense is, and this is what Brian Kelly said. He said the LSU defense is a work in progress. Yes, we're better than we were last year. We're not where we want to be. And your defense, albeit you can't put them in hardly a better spot than USC turning the ball over and starting their drive on their 3-yard line. But on the very first play, they pick up a first down or get 9 yards, and they get out from under the shadow of their goalpost and they get rolling. LSU eventually stops them on the drive, forces them to punt. But I just think that was a mistake. And yeah, it definitely was even more of a mistake because the under, which I liked for a month, was obviously the play. And those 3 points would have changed the game. It would have changed how you play the game. And I think inevitably, if LSU gets those 3 points, I really believe they'd have won the game.
Well, hindsight's 2020, and it's easy to coach from the sofa. I get that. I was in some conversation with some fans last night about, and I said they should have took the field goal. Okay, and I know if they'd have rolled out and threw the pass to Mason Taylor in the flat like they did in overtime against Bama, it would have been a great call and it would have been super. But I think the risk reward, after you went down the field, let your offense know, hey, good job. We didn't finish it, but we got 3 points out of it. I really think if he could do that one over, he would. But you don't get to do it over. Okay, we all know that. But yeah, I think, and then the less snaps in the game, the less possessions because of the way the clock rolls now. And you get a first down, they stop it only until they reset the chains, then it starts again. It used to not start again until the snap. We know all that. So maybe deferring is the best because it's almost like, hey, if we can make enough stops in the game, give our offense a chance. I mean, it's a way you're going to have to manage the game now differently with the clock. Now, one thing I read about the whole weekend, having the video tablets on the sidelines is a tremendous help to teams across the country of being able to see things. And maybe that's going to be a bigger burden on the coaching staff and make adjustments based on what you see. Whereas before, when them linemen came off the field, the coaches yelling, okay, what are they doing? Are they stunting? Are they crisscrossing? What are they doing out there? Now you can look and see that, and that's going to put more burden on the coaches for the in-game adjustment. Ronnie, when it was 10-10 at half, I said, okay, LSU's probably got more talent top to bottom than Southern Cal. They'll separate here in the second half. Never did happen. Although you're up 17-13, you got to think like, hey, if we can get another score here, make it a 2-score game, and the defense can, again, at times the defense looked good. If they can shore it up a little bit, we can get out of here with a win. Didn't happen.
Yeah, there were times to put it away. I go to let me stay with the first half for a second. Kyron Lacy has 7 catches, 94 yards in the first half and a touchdown. He was dominant. Did not have – I don't even think they targeted him. I could be wrong. But
Once.
Okay, targeted him once in the second half. Like, I don't understand what happened. And this is what I think. I think they have such a lack of confidence in their defense, justifiably. I mean, the defense gave up 450 yards. And again, Brian Kelly, we're a work in progress. We're better than we were last year, but we don't want to put too much on their plate right now. That he rather put too much on the plate of the offense than the defense. Because of that, I think that affected their play calling. I think they went super conservative. They decided to go tight ends, sometimes 2 tight ends when they don't have physical run blocking tight ends. They tried to run RPO with a guy that there was no R option, because Justin Musmeyer is not a runner and they didn't make him run. And so when you're trying to run between the tackles and you don't have a quarterback who can run and you don't have tight ends that can block, that are more, flex tight ends, it's not what you can do. But I think they were trying to move the clock. They were trying to, hey, we got 2 or 3, NFL offensive linemen. Let's rely on them and let's move the chains and keep the clock rolling. I think that played a part in it, and they misjudged. Second half, they went away from the really good mix that they had in the first half. I think the play calling in the first half was good. And in the second half, it was not. How Kyron Lacy only gets targeted once after he was the most dominant player on offense for LSU in that first half is beyond me. If anything, Tommy, just get him a freaking 3-yard hitch, get him the ball, to get him a touch, get him some momentum, get him going. You know what I mean? Like, things can change when you do that, and they didn't. And so I thought the play calling was awful. And then the defense started to get exposed in the second half. And you had some dumb calls, those personal foul penalties. One in the first half with Lacey who takes off the helmet. That led directly to the short field. The number one kickoff guy in the country burns them. And then in the second half, you got a chance 17-13 with the ball to be at midfield, potentially, and Major Burns backs you up, and then you get another penalty, and you don't make the 3rd and 1 because you run a number 88, Pimpkin or whatever, the tight end, who's not a blocker, misses his block. You don't get the first down, and the rest is history.
I agree with you completely on that. Now, Southern Cal was playing under and above Lacey. Okay, but that's got to open up the tight end or open up somebody else. But in the first half, Southern Cal dared them to throw the ball, which is why they couldn't run the ball. And again, coaching football is all about adjustments. It's all about adjustments in the first quarter, in the second quarter, etc. And I thought Southern Cal did a better job adjusting to what was happening on the field in front of them with the video tablets than the LSU staff did. And I think they would admit that. Now, Brian Kelly meets with the media at noon today because of Labor Day yesterday. Curious to see how he addresses all of that, addresses his post-game show, addresses the Kyron Lacey thing with the shotgun, addresses the penalties. I mean, I'm curious to see if he addresses all that stuff. I mean, they're going to beat Nicholls Saturday. We know that. But there's things that have to happen. And if it's a work in progress, you better keep working Saturday and keep Nicholls to 10 points or less for sure, even though, Nicholls played a good game against Tech the other day, but Tech's not world beaters. But they were a one-score game in Ruston at the end, and they've won the Southland Conference the last couple of years. So this is not I don't know if this is the, name your score game as much as some name your score games, but they're going to win, probably 50-10, give or take a few points.
I want to get to, LSU loses the game. It's a woulda, coulda, shoulda game. Disappointing there in the defense reverted back to 2023 and just became Swiss cheese. Three plays, 64 yards, puts them up 20-17. LSU goes down, 1st and 10-yard line, don't get it done, settle for a field goal. Now it's 2020 and they get the ball and we look like we're headed to overtime and they go right down the field. And with the help, obviously, of the targeting, made it an easy field goal. And then the LSU defense, I don't know what they were thinking. They just didn't, if they quit, don't know if they were in strip mode trying to get a fumble. But the bottom line is I'd have liked to have seen them at least force a kick, even though it would have been a chip shot field goal. The guy missed a 25-yarder earlier in the game. I'm sure he would have had some demons going in head and maybe you could have gotten lucky, but you gave yourself no chance with them allowing the touchdown with 8 seconds. Brian Kelly goes to the podium after the game. He's upset, as he should be, and said all the things we just said. But then he hits the podium. He pounds the podium. Now, he pounds the podium. He had just got asked by a younger reporter, about the run game, about, boy, it looked like you guys really, you think the run game's going to get better? Or, well, y'all were really committed to the run game. I don't know. Like it was an irritation question, right? Which sort of his response that led to the thing. You know what I mean? But I'm surprised how the reaction nationally has been that almost that they thought Brian Kelly was being fake with the pounding of the table. What was your reaction?
I thought it was a little theatrical. I did. I mean, because he basically threw the team under the bus and the coaches on the sideline when he made the comment, like, we acted like we won the game. You're never supposed to do that. Now, if it's 50-0 in the fourth quarter, you can act like you won the game. But, I thought it was a little bit theatrical, a little bit over the top. Yeah, sure, he was frustrated. Sure, he's not happy about the way the game unfolded and then, of course, the outcome. But, but Paul Feinbaum, got a quote that went viral on the internet. He said, "Hey, coach, you're paid $11 million to coach into the game and coach during the game, not act after the game." And that kind of rang true a little bit to me. Like, you should have thought of all of that in the preparation, all week up to this game. And then, of course, Florida State loses last night, and Norvell blames himself. I'm a terrible coach. I did a bad job. Maybe that's the new trend. When the team loses or gets upset or loses a game you didn't think they were going to lose, because technically it was an upset because LSU was a 4-point favorite. You gotta take the blame, but was he also throwing everybody else under the bus? Because I mean, they're in this. They win together, lose together. We know that.
Yeah, but see, I think you have the old mentality that these are just young little 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, and they're just getting their little scholarship with some meal money, and they get to go to Broussard Hall and eat their ham and cheese sandwich. Like, no, these are pros.
Right.
Like, the definition of pro is if you get paid money to do something, you're a pro. Nobody says it's got to be an X amount of money. These are pros. A lot of these players are making 75,000 plus. That's real money. The bigger players are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, you can talk about them just like you do the New Orleans Saints. And there's no difference. Matter of fact, some of these guys are older than some of the players on the Saints. So, like, forget the old day back in the 70s. It was so faux pas to say anything. No. I didn't think what he said was wrong. What do we want him to say? When we ask Brian Kelly a question, we literally want him to say, "Hey, it's my fault, the Tigers." I mean, no, he said the truth. Hey, man, we had 2 personal foul penalties. We had too many penalties, and we had 2 personal foul penalties that were selfish, that were stupid penalties from guys that are seniors. Well, they know what they did. He didn't say their name, but everybody knew what it meant. But of course, he said the truth, and now we're like, wow, he shouldn't have said that. Like, that's what we want. We want a press conference where you ask a question and you get an answer. If we're not going to do that, then let's just not have a press conference. Let's just go AI. And just have him spit out some BS. He actually said an answer that was truthful. But I didn't think he went that hard in the paint. I mean, those guys know they screwed up. I mean, we saw him talk for a minute and a half. I sat there for 30 yards away, saw him for a minute and a half talk to Major Burns as the assistant coach was yelling at Burns and Kelly was yelling at Burns. Then he eventually brought it down. You saw Burns put his hand on his coach and say, "Hey, my bad, I screwed up." And then they kept on, and then he hugged him and all that. Isn't that what we want out of a coach? Get on the player's ass, but then at the same time, at the end, love on them too. I mean, that's what we want our coach to be, right? So I don't think he did anything wrong. And the idea that he's supposed to soft shoe everything and just take all the blame just because he's making $10 million a year. Well, you know what? These players are all making money too. They're all professionals. So start acting like it.
Well, good point. And an analogy is, for many years, the NFL would say, false start offensive line number 66. And for many years, college wouldn't identify the player, okay? Because as a college kid, he's an amateur, he's not getting paid. Well, now, of course, Will Campbell false starts, it's number 66, And so I think you're right. And I'm learning from you with this thing that, this is pro football. These are professional athletes, no matter what you want to say otherwise, because they're getting paid. So they've got to be more accountable to the personal foul penalties, more accountable to the false starts, more accountable to missing a block, dropping a pass. I mean, because that's what it is now. It's been elevated to a higher level, and so I'm gonna learn from you on that one.
Yeah, it's more of a look at me society even more than ever before because of social media, because of their sponsorships and their NIL deals and all that sort of thing. Look at Oklahoma State, by the way. Oklahoma State got shut down. Yeah, they wanted to put the QR codes. I mean, unbelievable that would have been. They wanted to put individual QR codes on the back of the helmets for all of their players so that fans, when they watch the games at home, could, in essence, freeze the screen, take your phone out, QR code the player you like, and send them some money. Basically, it's basically a telethon every game. That's what they want to do to help with NIL for their players and be like the school that go there. You get a QR code in the back of your head, and basically it's like a Venmo Cash App, and all of a sudden you're playing a cha-ching. You hear the thing go off, and you rightly, thank God, said, no, this breaks the rules that are in place, that we have currently. You can't do that. And at the 11th hour, Oklahoma State wasn't allowed to do it. But yeah, it's just the selfish behavior cost. And when that's going to happen in a coin flip game, this was a coin flip game. My prediction was 31-28 LSU, like the under. It could go either way kind of game. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. USC's sitting there, their post-game press conference, their coach is saying we should have blown them out. We should have scored more points. LSU saying we should have won, and I believe both of them probably are right.
Well, you know what, Ronnie? Another thing I took from the whole weekend, not just the LSU game, and I watched a lot of college football. I mean, every player transferred from somewhere. I mean, 95% of them. He went to Oregon State. He went to Duke. He went to wherever. I mean, the announcers have to have. You used to say the kid's hometown. Oh, he's from Metairie and he went to Rummel. You used to say that. Now you say, well, he started his career at this school. You got the ninth-year guy at Miami that caught a touchdown pass. And how about this one, Ronnie? I don't know if you missed this one. T.J. Finley, the Ponchatoula guy, once LSU quarterback. Third time he started against Alabama for three different teams. He started for LSU against Alabama. He started for Auburn. And he started for Western Kentucky the other day against Alabama. Now he's 0-3. But go back 15 years, and if you just said a quarterback's going to start for three different teams against the same team in the next 3 years, the whole landscape of college football or pro football at the college level, it's just a different world. And I'm really going to have to adjust this week. And I will. I know I'm talking about coaches have to adjust, sportscasters, fans have to adjust. It's a different game than what you and I grew up when we became passionate for college football. It's not the same anymore.
We'll get into a lot of NFL talk tomorrow on Sports Shorts with Green Bay Packers and in the
East. You got the Chiefs and Ravens Thursday night. That's the opener.
Chiefs and Ravens Thursday night. A friend of mine whose wife and daughter, they're not big football fans. Games on at home, they're not sitting there like he's sitting there watching the games. He said the only games that my daughters and wife will watch are Travis Kelce and the Chiefs. He said that watch. So they'll be watching on Thursday night. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. I want to, and we'll find out where LSU's at in the polls. We'll react to that tomorrow morning when Tom's over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. But I wanted to ask you before you talk about Court Street Cafe. Boston College beat Florida State last night. Now, this is a Florida State team that has lost now 3 in a row going back to last year. They were to the bowl game. They were on the verge of playing for the national championship. Should have been in the playoffs last year, the top 4. Their quarterback goes down. They don't get picked. They were undefeated. This year, Nick Saban, just to show you how hard it is to predict teams, Nick Saban had Florida State winning the national championship and LSU 11th in the playoffs. So right now, he looks like he's going to be 0 for 2 at least on those predictions. But here we are, Florida State, 8 days or so after they play over in Ireland against Georgia Tech. Boston College beats them, but you saw it coming.
Yeah, I've read that Boston College had 17 or 18 starters returning. Bill O'Brien's their coach. Some people don't know that. Bill O'Brien was a head coach at Penn State, was a head coach of the Houston Texans, okay? And Nick Saban hired him 3 different times, which tells me he must be a pretty good coach. So I went with the plus 550 on the money line with Boston College, and I got that one right. By the way, Ronnie, the Associated Press poll started in 1936, almost 100 years ago. The first time ever that a ranked team started the season 0-2 playing 2 unranked teams. So Florida State, you got that dubious record. So, but like you said, tomorrow we'll be back on tomorrow over at Tremonti's, and we'll talk NFL, we'll talk Saints, but obviously had to recap a lot of. Plus, we'll react to what Brian Kelly says at noon today.
All right, tell us about Court Street Cafe.
Yeah, they got breakfast, lunch, dinner. Great place over here, Jason and the staff. They got drink specials. They got lunch specials. They got dinner specials. Connect on Facebook and Instagram. They do a great job of posting all that stuff. There's a full-service bar. You can get something to drink after work or on the weekend. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen, a couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge, as we always say. If you haven't been here, you need to do it. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, the full-service bar. They'll have the LSU game on Saturday night against Nichols when it's steak night. Big thing, steak night on Saturdays. They got a brunch on Sundays with bottomless mimosas. So I want you to check out Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. As we always say, don't forget to like and share this show. That helps everybody involved. We're back tomorrow morning. Yeah, this was a Tuesday edition because of Labor Day yesterday. We're back tomorrow morning for another episode of Sports Shorts Daily. Hopefully, you'll check it out and tell everybody about it. On behalf of Ronnie Ransom, everybody here at Court Street Cafe in Port Allen, I'm Tommy Chrysan. Have a great day, everyone.